Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1977. We're going to be taking a look at Lynyrd Skynyrd and they're going to be performing Freebird. And this is one of those videos that might fall foul of the copyrights, so I'm going to put it in the title if it is blocked, and you guys know the drill. If you go to the link in the description below, and I'll also pin it to the top of the comments so you guys can watch the video and then come back here for the analysis. And just so you know, if it does get through without the copyright block, I am going to be interrupting this performance for the analysis, so you can go to that link as well if you just want to watch it without any interruptions. But let's get the guys up on screen and see how they get on.
If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? I must be traveling on now, 'cause there's too many places I've got to see. If I stay with you, girl, things just couldn't be the same. 'Cause I'm as free as a bird now. I swear I am. Play it pretty for Oakland.
I'm just going to jump in here. The great thing about this live performance is the ebb and flow that runs throughout it the whole time. After Billy Powell's played the classic intro on keys, we then get into the verse and listen to the tempo, because it's one of those things I mention all the time about the tempo potentially ruining a live performance of a track, because it's pushed and it's a little bit too fast, and then it becomes like a wagon that you lose control over, and it gets faster and faster and faster, and then the wheels come off that wagon. Whereas here, there is a very conscious effort to slow down going into the first verse, and as we all know, that is all because we want the end of the song, and the band want the end of the song to have that dramatic impact, to have that light and shade between not only the instrumentation and the composition as a whole, but the tempo change throughout the composition as well. By the way, the guy responsible for taking that tempo out of the verse is Artemis Pyle behind the drum kit here. And once you've got a drummer who is in total control of the tempo, It means that you can give such an accurate representation of an album track, of the studio recorded version, because it's the same tempo, it's got the same feel to it. And of course, you need the people playing the instruments, the band, to be of that ability to reproduce what they did in the studio on the live stage. And Lynyrd Skynyrd certainly was full of top musicians and top artists all round that could do that on the live stage, especially considering that they had the 3 guitar setup, which meant that everything they recorded in the studio in terms of the instrumentation they had on the live stage, so they could give you exactly what they did in the studio but live. Just to put the spotlight on Gary for the intro, Gary Rossington playing lead with the slide. It is so deliberately played in terms of getting the feel of the song and just giving a landscape for the rest of the composition, deliberately sliding into these notes so slowly. If you did that too quickly, it would ruin the mood. It would be too fast. It would sound anxious rather than relaxed. So Gary, just such expression with the playing in the intro in order to get those higher notes, the higher pitches that you might wonder, if you don't play guitar, how is that achieved? It's just going beyond the frets, because now you're not limited to the frets, because you're not fretting onto the guitar when you're playing with a slide. You're just sliding along the string. Just a quick technical detail about the intro. When Billy's playing, he's got that big monitor next to him, the foldback, so anything that he's playing will be coming out of that speaker so he can hear it. Especially in the 60s and the 70s, playing big gigs at festivals, the technology was trying to catch up with the demand of the music, so it meant that sometimes the PA systems weren't powerful enough for the people on stage to hear what they're playing, so they have foldback speakers. It's something that you'll see at all festivals now. They'll have these huge speakers at the front of the stage pointed back towards the performers so they can hear what they're doing in order just to stay tight, because there's nothing worse than playing with the rest of the band and not being able to hear where they are. Another thing to mention is that you might notice some inaccuracies between what we're seeing and what we're hearing, and we also have a hell of a lot of crowd footage in this video, so it might have been the case that cameras were failing or they didn't quite get the shots that they wanted, and then they go to the footage of the crowd in order just to piece it together into a full performance video. So there is a lot of crowd footage, but fortunately we get to hear the audio as it was. That's uninterrupted. So let's get back into the performance.
Billy Powell, piano. Been a sweet life, oh yeah, yeah. Though this feeling I can't change, but please don't take it so badly, 'cause the Lord knows I'm to blame. If I stay with you now, well, things just couldn't be the same.
I'm just going to jump in here, even though this is so difficult to interrupt because of the amount of musicianship on show, but also the interaction that we've got on stage live between the performers. This is a part of the song that is actually really progressive from where we started in terms of the journey that we've gone on. And this is an important point to bring up about progressions and progressive music, because nobody would really class this, or certainly wouldn't class Lynyrd Skynyrd as a progressive rock band in terms of being fundamentally that genre. But in terms of the journey that we've gone on, we have progressed a hell of a lot, because not only have we changed in tempo, but the whole feel, everything's different now, where we're having guitar solos and melting faces, where we started at such a slow tempo when I mentioned about the slide guitar that Gary's playing in the intro, a totally different feel. I guarantee you that there's nobody in the audience watching this looking at their watch thinking, when is this song going to finish because I'm bored. There are so many interesting places that we visit on this journey, and it's that triple threat of being a great composition in the first place, but then having that composition executed live by top level professional musicians, as these guys are, and also putting on a show and being entertaining whilst they play is something that, even if you were to listen to this composition by itself, without any visual stimulation, without that showmanship side of it, it would still be really interesting. But once you add in those two elements of top musicianship and entertainment, you can't beat this for a live performance. And a live version of an already great version on the record, but then going to watch these guys live in 1977 and earlier must have been such a treat, because of having the ability to bring that recorded version to the live stage. Another thing, just to draw your attention to, not that you would be questioning it or even have noticed it, is the lack of effect, the dryness of Ronnie's vocal microphone, because there's no effect on there, there's no reverb, there's no delay, it's just purely Ronnie's vocal, but because it's so laid back, so relaxed, and it's all about Ronnie's expression and his tone, you don't think, oh, that microphone or the whole performance is suffering because of the microphone. It's just a great live performance of Freebird. And this is what you get with a great band. Plug in and play. They don't need a lot of effect, even on the guitars. Not massively overdriven or distorted, but still getting such a great sound because of their technical ability and their musical ability to be able to interact with each other melodically, especially with the live setup. And they're nailing the lines that you want to hear on the record, but also embellish those lines with extemporization live because of the level that they are at as musicians. It's something that I mention all the time about compositions and performances, that you want to go on that journey, and at the end you want to be at the peak of the mountain, and that's certainly what we've got here. The evolution of this track from the verse to the end is almost like two separate songs, but the way that it's been weaved together and performed live is so well executed, because you're never questioning the journey. It's never like you're thinking, oh, hang on, that didn't work because now we're in a totally different song. Somehow, Lynyrd Skynyrd managed to navigate their way through this song seamlessly so that it is so interesting the whole time and you never question it. Another really important thing to mention about this band is that they were all at a technical ability level independently where they could sell you a solo on their instrument, and they all had an ear for melody in order to do that as well. And it is so rare to have a band full of guys like that. You might have a band where one guy was that good to sell you a solo on their instrument, but having a whole band full of those guys, it was almost a case that you could put all of their names in a hat, and then whichever name got pulled out of the hat, they would be able to play you a solo and keep you interested. I always say you're only as strong as your weakest member in the band, but every member of this band was top level, and that's why it sounds so good. That's why they were such a great live band, is because when you're relying on each other and everyone is top level, you're only ever going to have that as your baseline. It can only get better than that when your fundamental level is great. But let's get back into the video and watch it until the end of the performance. And there we have it. What a great live performance. And the other thing to draw the attention to is the amount of rehearsal that's gone into this as well. Being so tight, but having the ending in there and all of the solos that are in there are going to be mostly extemporized. And that's the great thing about watching top musicians, is that every time you watch this, there'll be a slightly different solo played. And we have Steve Gaines in there as well. Just the interaction between the lead guitars is so great to watch as a guitarist myself. And if anything, rather than looking at the crowd, I just want a camera fixed on the fretwork going on. I don't want this video to go on for too long. I have watched the whole video, so it's probably going to be a bit longer than normal. But also, when you're looking at musicians of this caliber, you could be analyzing it and breaking it down for years because of the quality on show. I also will probably do another Lynyrd Skynyrd video in the future, just getting into the background, how they were formed, and everything up until 1977, because I haven't really got into that yet. As you guys will all know about the crash that happened in 1977, actually only a few months after this performance that we're looking at. And from then on, they had 10 years of not being Lynyrd Skynyrd, not doing anything, obviously, because of the members that were lost in that crash. And the surviving members did get things back together in 87. But like I said, I'll get into that in another video. But thank you guys so much for suggesting this one for me to take a look at. And keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!